Good evening, everyone, and welcome to WANA Live, the reading series of the Writers Association of Northern Appalachia. I'm Damian Dressick, your host, and this is your other host,
Christina Fasonic, and I am in wonderful Wheeling, West Virginia. You know, the tide has turned when I can do a WANA Live outside. Not only is it warm enough, but it's also light enough to be out here. I got the sun actually in my face. So this is good news, right? Because this means summer is just around the corner.
So the pumpkin behind you, is that just a bit of trickery?
You know, you've mentioned that on 8 different shows. It's a piece of stained glass by a local artisan. I have his work all over my house, and it's just so beautiful the way that it lets light in. I never take it down.
I see. I keep thinking it's a sign of fall.
Yes, well, typically it would be, but in this case, nope. It's just a beautiful decoration.
Okay,
so,
then.
Are we ready for our writer tonight? Are you ready?
I am. Well, can you tell the audience about our writer tonight?
Absolutely. I am so excited about our writer. So Patricia Thrushart is with us tonight. She has published 3 books of poetry: Little Girl Against the Wall, Yin and Yang, and Sanctity, poems from Northern Appalachia. Her work appears regularly in the Watershed Journal, one of our good friends, a regional literary magazine of Northwestern Pennsylvania, and on the website North South Appalachia. Her poems have been published in Tiny Seed, Clarion University's Tobacco, the Avocet, Still Point Arts Quarterly, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Bridge Literary Arts Journal, Feminine Collective, Curating Alexandria, High Shelf Press, and the Northern Appalachian Review. Several of her poems have won awards from both the Pennsylvania Poetry Society and the National Federation of State Poetry Societies. Her first narrative nonfiction book, Cursed, The Life and Tragic Death of Marianne Alsobrook Stallman, will be published in October 2021 by Adelaide Books of New York. I am really looking forward to that book, and I'm really looking forward to welcoming Patricia on the show. Are we ready?
I think so. Let's bring her out.
Hey there. Thanks so much for that introduction.
Yes, it's so great that you could be on the show. I know that you watch all the time, and it's great that you could join us because your words, we can't wait to share your work with with our audience.
Oh, thanks. I'm thrilled to be here. And I also want to take a minute to thank both of you, not just for having me, but for everything you do for the writers community. I just want to make sure you know we're not taking this for granted. This has been a wonderful series. I've been so impressed by, the scope of writers you've had, all of the different genres that you've found, that you've represented, and not just writers. You've had musicians. Just last week you had Ron Donahue, an artist. It's been a terrific series. And I know you do this at the corner of your desks, in addition to your jobs and your kids and your family and all of your demands. So I just want to make sure you know that we really appreciate this. It's a wonderful series, and we appreciate your commitment to the community.
Well, thank you very much. It was Damien's big brain idea, and and we've just carried it through. So we've had a blast this past, I think it's been almost a year and a half now. No, not quite that long, but it's been more than a year, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We have been so impressed with the generosity, the writers, and as you said, musicians and poets of the region, in terms of giving their time to the show. So we're so pleased that we can be a conduit for voices from the region to reach other folks here and the larger world.
Yes, and I've learned about writers that I'm not sure my path would have crossed otherwise, and it's really made me realize how rich the community is. So you're really bringing a lot to the table. It's wonderful.
We're so glad you can join us.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to be here.
Right. We are going to disappear, and we'll be back when you're finished.
All right, great. Well, hello again, everyone, and thanks for joining me here on WANA Live. I'm going to add my name to the list of poets that have appeared over the past year or so. And I'm going to read from the 3 books that Christina mentioned in her introduction. And then I'm going to share a couple of poems from a manuscript that I'm working on now. And I'll tell you a little bit more about it when I get there. So the first poem I'm going to read is from my book, Little Girl Against the Wall, which is 10 years old now. And this is called Moon Over Tamarindo. Heavy she lies and languid above the restless palms, full with round fecundity, succor of the night, luxuriant and glowing in golden stolen light, preening in her passage through clouds of silken white. Beneath her heavy body, the sea stirs and responds. Earth's bulging rock strains upward, desirous and blind. This next poem is from Yin and Yang, which came out a year later. Both of these books were published by a small press run by a wonderful friend who then became my husband. You got to watch poetry. It can do that to you. And the covers of these books were both artwork commissioned from the Heron School of Art students in Indianapolis. So this poem from Yin and Yang is called Luna Moth. Green ghost of night, with pale purple trails and long curving tails, a lover's eyes upon your wings. You flit among persimmon trees and ancient stands of hickories, no mouth to eat or life to feed, a pheromone your lure and one desire. She waits and will not fly until you brush her with your feathered crown and couple her for hours under the moon and Saturn, among the sweet persimmon trees and ancient stands of hickories, the deep and leafy dark that hides her limpid, silky beauty. And then there was a 10-year hiatus, and just a few months ago, I published Sanctity, Poems from Northern Appalachia, or Appalachia, as you wish. And this is unabashedly a nature poetry book. And I wrote it to bring the healing power of nature in my small way to readers after all we've been through these last 18 months. And it's organized by seasons. I'm going to read a few from spring since we just had a fleeting one. And then it was 88 degrees today, so I'll read a few from summer. Swallow. Have you seen how the swallow flies in early spring over a still sodden field, just greening, careening, twisting with lifts of abandon, rolling through unseen streams of just rinsed air after rain? And your heart lifts with it, lifts with the pure joy of it, lurches left with its bronze body, then dives with it as blue wings fold until just above the still dried stalks, the slender tips extend and the whole of the bird shoots up, up, up to the dazzling sun. Spring night prayer. The night woods are filled with the fresh songs of frogs, puffed throats stretched to the thinnest veiny green, throbbing with desire on trembling branches, each song a desperate prayer that the holy vernal water will lie long enough for swampy coupling and white clouds of eggs seeded with promise. And this is a summer poem called Solace. Just when I think the last of solace is gone, the air grows soft with the sighs of grosbeaks hidden in the pines. Unseen, they murmur each to the other, content with the lengthening light, the promise of rain, the fullness of seed they will feed their young, whose nests swing in the wind, who sleep to the sound of sweet whistles and the whispers of where Solace has gone and how it might return on the wings of birds. This is another summer poem. What your cousin Davey knew. Do you think your cousin Davey knew, when he suddenly died at 62, that the time he sat on his front porch after supper, under the summer triangle, when the air was finally cooling off, God, it was a hot one, his thoughts drowned out by the katydids and cricket calls, the trilling owl, and far away yelp of the coyotes, answered by the rising bay of his hounds in their compound just behind the clapboard house, missing a few shingles and a shutter or two, things he just hadn't gotten around to fixing quite yet. Do you think he knew that it was the last time he'd see those brightening stars, or hear that fine chorus, or hush his dogs, for Pete's sake, shut up, or that he'd never get to those little annoying repairs? And the last poem I'll read from Sanctity hints at the coming of fall. Not to rush the year, but fall is also a beautiful time in northern Appalachia. It's called Path. There's a path that runs to the east, the grass grown up from neglect, only the faintest denting from deer moving during the night. On certain days, the drifting sun rises directly there, the light slithering along the weedy heads of seed, through the trees, reaching me as I wait like a sacrifice in the temple, aligned to catch the golden snake, or a priestess at Newgrange, praying as the solstice sun pierces the passage to anoint the dead. I wait, the trees aflame above, the ground glowing from burnished leaves, the sky growing brighter, the light's shaft coiling, ready to crack open my heart. And the last two poems I'm going to read are a bit of a departure from nature poetry. They're from a manuscript I'm working on now. The working title is Goddesses I Have Known. And the manuscript explores all of the various aspects of the feminine. This one is called Aphrodite Crouching at Her Bath. If Aphrodite can have stomach rolls, then I can too, and still be a goddess. At least if I'm crouched down like that. I can have that dimpled cellulite where her thick thigh meets her calf, forever ready for her bath, twisting as if someone is sneaking up from behind. She's nervous. But then she was born of Aphros, the foam created when Kronos threw the genitals of his father Uranos into the churning sea. That had to be traumatic. Her left arm is lifted, no flab, as if to hide her alert breasts from unwanted guests. Maybe little Eros coming to plague her, or that sailor who left his stain on her tucked under marble butt after staggering into her shrine one night, so they say. The goddess of love has no booty, it must be said, not to pick her apart or anything. As old as she is, she has no scars, no stretch marks, except gouges from millennia spent under Roman soil. You can't help but notice the stomach rolls, though. I mean, she's not perfect, definitely not, even after being sculpted. And her eyes are cold, don't you think? Her eyes are cold and completely blank. And the last poem I'll read is also from this same manuscript. And what's interesting about this poem is it's part of a Wrenchy series. What's a Wrenchy series? It's when a group of poets get together and say, we're going to write poetry in order. And each poet uses the last line of the poem written before him or her to start the next poem. So the line I got was, "Be my muses. Be my muses, you crones and queens. I need you more than Greeks in their flowing gowns and marble shrines to beauty. Erato enchants, Polyhymna promises, Calliope beguiles, but all faint in the face of caste and farce, plague and force. The muses I need now are darkly different, more at home with hell than Hera. Come then, Tiamat and Bast, Mazu and Yemaya, meet Holocaust with chaos, revenge with vengeance. Deliver to me a pantheon of all that is unholy in this sanctimonious world. Strengthen this spine. Prepare my mouth to speak the messy truth of sweet blasphemy." Thank you.
You're here. That was really, really awesome. I had to come back out inside because my neighbors decided to mow their lawn in the middle of the show. So, you know, nothing's. That was an amazing reading. I love the way that you use language to paint a picture and tell a story at the same time.
Thank you.
And, you know, I think we all could see that image of Aphrodite, but also the story happening at the same time. And that is not easily done. And that was really fun, too. I was giggling in the background. So
I knew you'd like that poem, Christina. That one I knew you'd like.
It was perfect. Absolutely perfect. I loved everything about it. And I never noticed that she didn't have a butt.
Yeah, right?
Aphrodite, our buttless goddess.
Right. But at least she has stomach rolls so we can feel better about ourselves.
Exactly. Oh, my goodness. It was just wonderful. Everything from beginning to end is just a joy to listen. Damien, I'm sorry. There I go again.
No. Yes, I think the goddess of love has no booty.
Yes.
No, I liked a lot of what you were doing. I love some of the nature. I liked the frog imagery and this idea of where has Solace gone. Also, but I have to say, I really was enamored with your first poem, having spent some time in Tamarindo, in the Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica, and I can remember sitting out there and eating al fresco late at night with the moon over the Pacific, and I really thought you did such an amazing. You know, I know we're talking about Appalachia here, but I really thought you did such an amazing job of capturing that kind of the natural beauty of that region, that little, because Tamarindo is a tourist area for people who don't know, and it's out on the peninsula, and the other beach towns go down, but it's such a visually arresting place.
Yeah, thank you. And I tried to capture the sensuousness of the place, the palms and the moon and the sea, and the notion that the moon doesn't just act on the sea with tides, but it actually causes the earth to bulge, the very earth. And each time it does, the earth is pushing the moon away slightly. You know, it's a very sensuous, dynamic place. I'm glad you've been there and can put it in context. Yeah, it's I love it there. I love Costa Rica.
Definitely.
I love the Wrenchy poem idea because it reminds me of the exquisite corpse kind of writing.
Exquisite corpse, where each person writes a line and they don't know what the line was before them.
And the Wrenchy poem bit, I love that idea, and I think it would be fun to do a book of essays like that as well.
Oh yeah, that would be fun. It's really interesting because you're so much at the mercy of the last line of the poem before you, and oh my goodness, some of these lines. "Be my muses" was a gentle one. I've had some really interesting lines, and then again, I've handed off some lines that challenge the next writer too. But it is a fun group. It's a fun thing to do. It really is.
We have some comments.
Yes.
Edward Frank thanks you for the warning about what could happen due to poetry.
Right. Right. You're working with a small press publisher, and the next thing you know, you're married to the guy. Yes.
One of my publishers is Larry Smith, and I swear to God that's never going to happen. I'm not going to marry Larry Smith no matter what.
Well, you're smarter than you're smarter than that. Yep.
And so is Larry.
That's funny, Ed.
Karen also added such beautiful lyrical images.
Oh, thanks. And I enjoyed her reading a lot on this show. So high praise. I take the source very seriously.
Yes, Karen is a regular watcher of our show. I think she's made it to just about all of these, and we really appreciate that. And our regular viewers. And of course, Byron, who's been on our show as well, he says good reading and great selections. And it really was. You selected a lot of, excellent poems to make us think about the simplicity and the complexity of language to describe our world, but also to make us feel it in a different way.
Yeah,
We can all look at the same thing and come away from it with very different language, words, and words, maybe even all the same words, but put together in a different order in a different way.
That's what's so beautiful about the art form and the community. I think poetry is the absolute epitome of loving language, and I try to feel that even in my mouth when I read, because it is really dessert when it comes to loving language. Yeah,
I love that. That's dessert. That's wonderful.
Yeah,
it's like writing in general, right? It's ultimately awful and wonderful at the same time. It's sublime and profane. It's all those things all at once. What else would you do? What would we do without it?
Exactly. And many times we can't help but do it. I mean, I can't not write. Right. Poetry wells up in me in response to my world. I write a lot of nature poetry because I live in the woods and it's right outside my window. All of its drama, all of its beauty, all of its tragedy. And the challenge I have as a poet, in my view, is to bring those images and then connect them to humanity. And I've worked hard on doing that. So it all starts with loving language.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. This is so great to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really grateful to be here. I'm grateful for all you do, and I'll be listening to the next show. You can be sure of that.
Yes. And Damien, do you recall who is on our next show? I'm looking.
No, you're not going to find.
I'm not going to find. Okay. All right.
We're gonna have a mystery guest because our person had to reschedule. That's why you're not going to find it.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. We had to reschedule. So
you started asking about, do I know? I'm like, I know who it was going to be. We're going to have a mystery guest, so it'll be good. I put some feelers out for a couple of people who asked to be on later that they'll come on earlier. But thank you so much, Patricia. Also, I have to say, it's always nice to hear people bust out the Greeks,
Yes, agreed.
Oh, yes.
2 Halloweens in a row, I win as a muse.
Oh, wait. We've got more comments. So Jess says, you are so talented.
Oh, thanks, Jess.
And we got Greg Clary saying, great job. Thanks for a wonderful reading. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. We'll see you with a reader, I swear, next week at the same time and the same place.
It's going to be a horse, isn't it? It's a horse.
Mule.
All right. See everybody next week.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Bye.